get to experience my retirement home that I built here in 1936. I'm very, very proud of this house. You know, and you'll know and learn more about this house later. And from that, you'll understand that I was way ahead of my time with this new modern day Bill Green, because I made some innovations in this house that would fit in that category. And they're all there because of me, my own thinking. This isn't stuff I got from anybody else. So this is my beautiful retirement home. And then I'm also pleased that I get an opportunity to defend my good name, which is constantly being tarnished by the people of the city, by telling you a number of stories and rumors about me that are not true. So I'm going to tell you the truth about my life, so you can understand why the city should they should be treating me as Huntsville's most benevolent citizen. You know, when you're rich and famous, and you're very handsome and very smart like I am, you are going to be subject to this type of rumorism, you know. And it comes from people basically who are jealous or envious, you know, or they spend too much in the pubs, they're getting too much liquor in them, and they make up these crazy stories about me. And I got to put them to rest, and that's why I'm pleased to have this opportunity to do so. See, I'm a native of Huntsville. I was actually born here on February the 17th in 1869. My father was a very successful homeopathic physician. He was very prominent in civic activities. He was a very successful investor, and he married Mary King of the Quaidale Plantation, which is a very prosperous plantation in the north part of town. The plantation house is still there. So you see, I'm of good stock, good stock. Now, unfortunately, my father died of cancer when I was about 7 years old. But he left more than enough money to my mother to raise myself and my sibling sister Carrie in the grand style that we were accustomed to in the beautiful 14-room mansion that was at the corner of Eustis and Green here in town, right across the street from the Church of the Nativity. Now the house is no longer there because I had it demolished. So I could donate that land to the city and establish the Madison County Clinic for the city of Huntsville, which has served the city very well for many, many decades, all because of me, you see, all because of me. I graduated from Vanderbilt Medical School in 1898. And when I returned to Huntsville, the first thing I had to do, and you know, life is full of things you don't want to do, but sometimes you have to. And I had to have my dear mother committed to the state asylum in Tuscaloosa because she was nuts. Now, she couldn't help this. There was a strain in the family. She had two uncles already who had some mental disturbances. And there was nothing we could do for her medically, and she needed the assistance that they could give her at the institution, so I had to put her there. And of course, in those days, being the only surviving male, I had to take control of the Burritt estate, you see. But my father had left more than enough money, as I say, for her to raise us in the style that we were accustomed to. So the second thing I had to do while I lived in the estate was to apply for my medical license with the Board of Examiners in Montgomery. Now, Montgomery is the capital city of Alabama. Now, here are some of the rumors. It took 7 years for them to give me my license to practice medicine. And the rumors are that I couldn't pass the exam, which is absurd because I was a regular person. I'll tell you what was really going on. In those days, Montgomery was saturated with a bunch of self-seeking politicians who were more interested in lining their pockets with money than in anything else. And I'm convinced that they, knowing that I had access to the Burritt estate, were looking for a very sizable payout under the table to expedite the paper flow. You know what I'm saying, you know? But being a man of high morals and impeccable integrity that I am, I would not play that game. I would not give them a nickel, so I just waited it out, you know. And they made me wait 7 years. Can you believe this? So while I was waiting, I did several things. I did some study work with the Apollonia Clinic up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I got involved in consultation with the Hager Drug Clinic in Waco, Texas. I became very involved in the social life here in Huntsville. And my sister Carrie got married during that time to Jack Matthews. And they had one little boy. They only had one child, little son. And they wanted to name him Burritt. They wanted to give him the family name, Burritt. So they asked me what I thought. And I told them I thought it was stupid. So they named him Burritt Matthews. And while I was doing this, I also met the love of my life, which was Pearl Johnson. Beautiful 17-year-old girl, beautiful red hair. We fell madly in love. We got married immediately. She was the true love of my life, which is why I still always wear this big pearl as my top pin to remind me of her. I was married 3 times in my life, once for love, once for money, once for convenience. I will explain all of this in just a minute or two. So Pearl and I had a wonderful time together while we were waiting. finally, in 1898, the most eventful year of my life, the schmucks down in Montgomery finally caved in, and they sent me my license, and I could practice medicine, and I got a job immediately as the examining physician for the Board of Pensioners for Northern Alabama. Pretty fancy title for your first job, is it not? And I rolled up my sleeves, dedicating my entire life to medicine. But life has changes, doesn't it? Yes. And sometimes things happen that you don't plan on. In 1998, or 1898, that was the year of my life of unexpected changes. Because shortly after I got the job, the love of my life, Pearl, died. She died on the operating table. We were only married 7 years. I was devastated. The rumors are that she died in my hand performing an abortion. This is absurd. She died of a burst appendix. It clearly states that on the death certificate that it's still a record of the Church of Nativity. And I know because I was there. I signed it. I was devastated. And then another tragedy. My sister Carrie, who absolutely adored me and wanted to be a part of my medical experience, I sent on a cute little program down to the Waco Clinic, the Hager Clinic, pardon me, in Waco, Texas. And she left Huntsville, but she never arrived in Waco. And she disappeared. And she was never found. We never ever found out what happened to Carrie. You know, it's bad enough losing your only sibling, particularly early in life. But we have no closure, no idea what happened. This is really devastating. Then on top of that, my brother-in-law, Jack Matthews, her husband, was furious when he found out that shortly before that she had made a new will, leaving her share of the Burritt estate to me, excluding him. Well, he was so destined to prove this point, he took it to court. He sued me, claiming that not only did I coerce her into changing of the will, but I then had something to do with her demise so I could collect. Can you imagine? Well, this saturated the newspapers downtown for 3 solid weeks. That's all they could print about was this terrible court case of what Dr. Burritt is supposed to have done. Well, there was no truth to any of it. The jury decided 100% in my favor that I was totally innocent. But he would never say an apology. He carried that grudge to his grave. It just put a scission within our family connection. But some people are that way, you know, even though they're wrong, they cannot apologize. This was really, really hurting me badly. Fortunately, Mother Fortune showed on me in August of that year because a very wealthy widow from St. Louis, Josephine Drummond, was here visiting her cousin, the Landmans. The Landmans were still here. Oh, some of them are descendants. The Landman Electric Company is still in town, descendants of the Landmans. And Josephine developed a little stomach ailment, and because of my high position in society, and because of being a doctor, they called on me to take care of Josephine. So when I walked in the room and first met Josephine, and she saw me for the first time, what do you think happened? What do you think happened? She did, of course. She fell in love with me immediately, of course. What took you so long? And within 3 months, Josephine said to me, Dr. Burritt, if you will marry me, I will see to it that you never have to work another day of your life. Now, I had worked the better part of a year now, and that sounded pretty good to me. That's right. But there were problems. Josephine, you wouldn't call her a good looker. She wasn't ugly, but she was not a good looker. And she wasn't a tall lady. She was shorter than I, look how short I am. She was a sturdy woman. 20 years older than me. I'm 29 and she's 50. What do you think I did? Of course I married her. She was filthy rich. Why not? So I moved to St. Louis with her, and we lived in a 40-room mansion on Delmar Boulevard. And for the next 32 years, we had a fabulous life. We traveled the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, India, everywhere. We hung out with all the rich and the famous. It was just absolutely an unbelievable experience. We would occasionally return to Huntsville, and Josephine would put on her necklace of 192 diamonds and 86 sapphires, and the little people in Huntsville would just drool to be in our presence. They treated us like absolutely royalty. Oh, it was just magnificent. We had a great, great time together, a wonderful marriage. But not all the trips back were pleasant, because in 1922 my mother died in the insane asylum, and I had to return again for that matter. In the meantime, my honorary brother-in-law had died. And what he had done is he left Burritt, his son,
It's my ward.